First cast with the damsel. Right, so I saw that fish rise and I covered him a couple of times with the jig nymph in olive that I've had so much success on this week. No go. So I decided to try a damsel nymph, and this is called the skinny damsel, which I've seen Tom Jarman fishing this one, Fullingmull skinny damsel, and he took first cast. Whenever there's a full moon, I always take it as an opportunity to think about my late father. So it's my last full day here at Uncle Billy's near Armadale, and today I'm going to fish with a rod that I have probably owned for 30 years. I see the rod case that I've still got it in is from the fly fisherman in Pietermaritzburg in South Africa. So this would have been Roger Bart's shop, 24 Dean Street, Pietermaritzburg. Although I don't think this rod was actually purchased from that. I think this was probably purchased from Jack Blackman at King Sports in Durban, which is actually where I grew up. And this is a very old Daiwa Osprey carbon, and it's a 7.5 foot. I can't actually see the weight, but I think from memory it was a 4.5 maybe. It's hard to actually see. Yeah, I think it's a 4.5 weight. I don't have any of my old reels, so the reel is new. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to fish with a good old Mrs. Simpson, because I pretty well grew up on a strict diet of Mrs. Simpson's and Hamel's Killers and Walker's Killers. And the flies are actually in a fly box. This fly box is actually not from South Africa. This is a fly box that was gifted to me by Graham Kenny, who was in one of my earlier videos. He actually made this. So I can see it there, Graham Kenny, 2016 Huon Pine. One of the most beautiful gifts I've ever been given. One of the most thoughtful gifts I've ever been given. And you can see on the top there, I've got a whole bunch of Mrs. Simpsons. And there's a few Walker's Killers over there. Yeah, so these are some of my old flies. Let's see how this goes. Let's see how long this lasts. Well. Still life in the old baby yet. Saw that fish rise and thought I'd come in into the shallows and fish from these shallows. Good old Mrs. Simpson. Hey Rodney, how many fish have we caught on a Mrs. Simpson together, you and I? Oh, and the fly's out. How about that? Well, we're going to round that up to 2.5 pounds. Thank you, buddy. You brought back some wonderful memories. Yeah! Mrs. Simpson! First fish of my last day, Uncle Billy's beautiful 2.5 pounder on My Daiwa Osprey that I probably bought when I was 16 or 17. So 34, 35, 37-year-old rod and a Mrs. Simpson. That brings back some memories. I've been trying to think of a way to describe what casting with this rod is like. And the best way I can describe it is it's like casting a pool noodle. This is my third trip to Uncle Billy's, and it's the second time this morning that I've actually got my fly caught on the corrugated iron roof. And it just makes me realize, you know, these longer rods that I normally fish with, they definitely cast the fly above, well above the roof. These shorter rods, 7 foot, back cast is clearly not that high, and I'm getting caught up. Right, Weber temperature check, 12 degrees outside. And the water is 16. Oh, missed it. Had a bite. Good old Mrs. Simpson. I was thinking of changing to a muddler minnow. Okay, we'll give one of my late father's favourite flies a go. A good old red setter. Although I've pinched the barb down, I don't think my dad ever fished with a barbless hook. There's Sally the sea eagle. Whole bunch of buddies keeping me company as I fish. Little coots, 2 swans. There's actually 5 black swans on the dam that I've seen today. Lost it on the red setter. It tapped on the previous cast, and then I hooked it and lost it. Here we go. Good old red setter. There we go. Beautiful big cockfish. Ah, flies already out. Alright, buddy. So, fooled by the red setter. Who would have thought? Oh my god, that's nice. It's a solid 3 pounds. You are beautiful, buddy. You are beautiful. Thank you. Off you go. Here he goes. Thank you, buddy. Red setter. That's for my dad. Happy days. Just had the most incredible experience. Just saw a fish come up to the surface, chasing my fly. I paused and waited and struck, and I had him, and then I didn't have him. Wow, I've got goosebumps. Oh, I can't believe it. It's the second time. Missed it. Oh. Wow. Holy smokes, that was exciting. It was a fascinating session of fishing this morning. Probably fished for 2 hours, got 2 fish. First was on a good old Mrs. Simpson, I saw that fish rise and actually changed my leader. I put on a brand new leader, a Rio 9-foot 2X, and then got that fish super chuffed. And then I decided to fish another one of my old flies, one of the ones that my dad loved fishing, which was a red setter. And I set my timer for an hour. I said I was going to fish it for an hour. And I waded into these flats over here. And it was fascinating. I could feel little bumps on the fly. Aggressive bumps on the fly from the fish. And eventually I caught one. That felt amazing. And then I had two incredible experiences, the same experience twice. Slowly retrieving in, I can literally see an angry fish chasing my fly. And I slowly retrieved it sort of on the rise. And the fish took and I struck, got off. And then it happened again about 15 minutes later. The first one I didn't get on film, but hopefully I've got the second one on film. Incredible. And on both of those casts, the previous cast, I felt something bumping the fly. So clearly this red setter, that is perceived, I don't know, it's a threat or something. And the fish want to play with it and want to bump it and want to be aggressive with it. Very exciting fishing. Yeah, there we go. It's been my last couple of hours. How good is that? Unbelievable. 3 times that one bumped my fly. Twice and then the real take. That's incredible. And the faster retrieve got him to properly strike. It's on the red setter. Oh, keep your head up, buddy. Yeah, that is exciting. Red setter strikes again. Wow, buddy, you are a beautiful trout. Thank you. Where's the red setter? That was a heavy fish. I could hear it. I could feel it. Boom, boom, boom. Pretty sure that was the fish I dropped a couple of casts ago. Wow, 3.5 pounds on the red setter. Right, flies out. Beautiful hen. 3.5 pounds. Awesome. So I reckon that I hooked that fish earlier, a couple of casts before, that it got off. That there's just something about this red setter just almost aggressively want to, I don't know, chase it from their area or something. It's incredible. The fish are just coming back for it again. Amazing. It's also a slightly larger size than I normally fish. This will be probably a 6, I would think. Interesting fishing. Oh, lost it. That's interesting. That's definitely parallel, not curved up like it should be. That's very interesting. It's the second time that this has been out of sorts. I mean, it's not quite a mimation, but it's not far off. This place is just so special. Looks like the opening scene of The Simpsons. Springdon, there will be no encore. The Simpsons. Beautiful sunset. And an even more stunning moonrise. Sunset on another great week at Uncle Billy's. What a place. Thank you, Mel and Rob. Sunday morning on my way back from Uncle Billy's to Sydney. So I've stopped in Armadale for grab some coffee at a place called the Goldfish Bowl. It's come very, very highly recommended from some friends of mine, Stu and Emma Locke. And I just wanted to reflect on some of my learnings from this most recent week at Uncle Billy's. I found third time fishing that dam, there's a lot that I've learned, because I know the fish are there, but they were hard to get. They're very hard to get this most recent trip. So the Goldfish Bowl learnings from Uncle Billy's trip number 3. Firstly, with these barbless hooks, you've got to make sure that the bend remains. I think that sometimes the barbless hooks are bent a little bit in, a little bit almost curved in, and I definitely lost fish this time because it had been bent out. Fish the hang. Yesterday was an incredible day. I must have seen 10 fish following my fly up, and if I'd fished the hang, I maybe could have caught 1 or 2 of those. What I also noticed yesterday, it's the first time I've ever really noticed it, is the difference in the aggressiveness of fish for certain flies, in particular fishing that red setter. Couldn't believe how aggressive the fish were with hitting that red setter. And I had a first yesterday, which was a fish that hit twice and then took the fly on the third fish. And on that third cast, I thought to speed up my retrieve, and the speeding up of the retrieve, I think, was what caused the fish to take the fly. That was so exciting. The importance of an intermediate line. The first trip to Uncle Billy's, I only had floating lines. I caught 60 fish on a floating line. Second trip, I caught mostly on a floating line, but Linton caught those 6 fish, all of them on an intermediate line. And this trip, I caught every fish pretty well on a sinking line, on an intermediate line. So thank goodness I had that intermediate line. And I did find that when it's very, very windy and the surface is very choppy, the intermediate line just under the surface gives you that direct contact with a fly. Much easier to fish when it's super, super choppy. And lastly, just a reflection on the different types of takes for a fly like a mud-eye. In both of the cases with the mud-eye, so the dragonfly imitation, I noticed that the fish had swallowed them completely, and one of those fish I ended up killing and eating. And again, reflecting on the red setter, with how different the take are on a red setter compared to these jig nymphs that I've been fishing a lot lately, where it's a very, very different type of take. The jig nymphs, the small little jig nymphs that I've been using in the river, mostly hooked in the top jaw, whereas the mud-eye was right in the back of the throat, and the red setter, one of the red setters, was also in the back of the throat. Cool.
If you get outside of North America, there's a lot more research that's been done. So, for example, in South Africa, in Botswana, the San people, there's been a lot of anthropological research over the decades on these hunter-gatherers and their diet.